Facilitator. And so what we do is, as opposed to it being a theoretical textbook-based course, it's much more of a hands-on trial-by-fire style course where they actually start their own businesses. Of course, the class itself runs an individual business, and then each individual student starts a business. And it's a legitimate business with a business plan that's been fully registered, and the profits and losses come down to them. It's learning business by actually being in business. And over the course of the year, we will have up to 50 or 60 guest speakers come in so that the students can learn from actual entrepreneurs and people that have succeeded and failed, and they hopefully the students can learn from their past experiences.
Why do this? Why have a program like this?
Well, it's been very successful. I say it hasn't existed in the past, and it hasn't existed in the past in Southern Illinois. It started in Effingham, and over the course of the few years it's been up there, it's been incredibly successful. The students that come out of it either continue with their own businesses, or having the CEO on their resume is a huge benefit. But I guess a little bit more locally, we're trying to grow and sustain the local economy. So by growing some of our own businesses, we're hoping they stay in the area. It's not a necessity or a requirement for them, but we're hoping that by doing this, I've got 11 students this year. That will be 11 new businesses in Jackson County that are actually up and running. If half of them stay, that's wonderful. So that's 5 or 6 new businesses that will stay in Jackson County, and hopefully across all of Southern Illinois, that's multiplied by 6.
And I think that this program, it was started because of exactly the reason you just mentioned, Ken. It's the brain drain we always hear about in rural communities. Is there any evidence that, I know Effingham has been doing this for a number of years, is there any evidence yet that kids are staying home and are going to college, coming back, starting businesses?
I guess the best way to say it is yes, because there are multiple CEO students that still are in the Effingham County. Now, as far as actual statistics, I don't have anything like that, but there are businesses that likely wouldn't have existed otherwise, or at least wouldn't have been successful because the entrepreneurs wouldn't have had the knowledge base they built through the CEO program that certainly couldn't have done anything but help. So we know that it's worked there, and we're trying to duplicate that here. But the nice thing about each program, and one of the thing that's most exciting for me, is that it's not incredibly structured. It's not a standard textbook-based course, as I said before, where, okay, we're going to learn about supply and demand, so turn to chapter 3. We get to draw on actual local people. So if we're dealing with supply and demand, we might speak with Prairie Farms, and they can come in and explain what affects their sales. And it's these people, well, I should say about 8 of our students come from entrepreneurial families. And so their parents and their aunts and uncles can come in and talk to our class. So I'm hoping that we are able to do that, have as many local guest speakers as possible, and then that way it's customized to each individual county.
So give us the nuts and bolts. How does the class actually work? How do you find students, and what do they do?
Well, I started with the program in February, and the majority of the student selection process is covered by our board. We have a very, very strong board, Curtis Baird, John Pfeiffer, many, many others from around the area, including superintendents, principals, local community members. And they actually went into the schools and spoke about the CEO program. And then the students who were interested had to put together essentially a letter of application. They had to have letters of recommendation. They had to actually also have their school administrator or guidance counselor recommend them as well. So once they make it through all of that process, then it goes to the board or the selection committee of the board, depending upon how each county does it. And then they choose which students will be in. And it's all done through blind selection, because, of course, small town, you don't want to end up letting this person's nephew in but excluding this person. So all that whole part is done blind, and that all of that is done without me. There are things that the CEO program calls non-negotiables, and that is one of them, that I can't be a part of the student selection process. They try to exclude the facilitator from any sort of fundraising or anything like that. That way I can focus exclusively on the entrepreneurial education, focus on getting the business owners in there and teaching the students. Did that answer your question?
It did, but one of the questions was too. Is it sounds like a lot of the students, may or may not go to college, but what you always find with entrepreneurs is that they're usually cut from a different cloth. Mm-hmm. So they might have a different mindset than let's go to college, get a degree, get an advanced degree, and make myself very marketable for an employer. Whereas an entrepreneur might go to college to enhance their skill set, knowing all along that they're going to start their own business. So are there, when you're doing the selection process, or when the board is, are you looking to identify students that may not fit that traditional college track of a lot of students around?
Absolutely. It's they're certainly looking for something a little different than what you might look for in a student that might be in a standard AP class. It's not just grade point average that determines this. It's drive, it's mindset, creativity, absolutely, ability. Not everyone would succeed as an entrepreneur, and as we know, half of entrepreneurs, their businesses really struggle or fail. So I know that is certainly taken into account. It's not just have you passed calculus, it's can you be an entrepreneur.
Okay. So once a student is selected, tell us how the actual class works.
Okay.
And it's not just a Carbondale thing, right?
Correct. That was the other half of your question whenever I asked you earlier. So it is Carbondale, Murfreesboro, and El Dorado, all three high schools, and we have a representative from all three on the board, and we have students from all three. And I believe Trico is the other school that we're hoping that we'd love to see them in it next year. So the way the course will actually run on a day-to-day basis, this is something that's going to be hard for me, unless you know me well. I tend to talk quite a bit, and that's going to be hard for me because I was a classroom teacher at one point, and I would get up in front of the class and talk for 47 minutes, and then the students would leave. That's not the way this class runs. That's why they call me a facilitator rather than a teacher. I will, as much as possible, try to bring other people in to talk about whatever they need. And it's not that it's week 3, therefore we're talking about pricing structure. It is that this is where the students are in either their individual businesses or in the class business, and they need to understand search engine optimization. So when the time comes that they need this specific information, that's when we'll bring those guest speakers in. So as far as my role, will largely be, I want to take pictures. I want to publish as much information about it as possible, because it is a very county-based or community-based public class, and so I want the public to know what all is going on. In fact, they're welcome to come into the class. We meet from 7:30 to 9, Monday through Friday, starting August 17th. And if people want to come into the class and see what it's about, we welcome them, because everybody has different input. So that would, I guess, be the best way to explain the class. Whenever we don't have guest speakers or we're not on a tour of a local business, they will be working on their businesses themselves, or we'll be clarifying and going back over some of the topics that the guest speakers covered.
If I were a college student, just listen. I mean, I would love this, because I could just, I could cut out of maybe my math class or one of those classes, and I could start talking about a business. I mean, is it that simple? Is that really how your day's structured, or is this extra work, or what's your schedule look like during the day?
It is going to be a lot of extra work for the students. It really is.
I said that facetiously, because it's not as simple as just substituting the class.
I thought you meant about you cutting class was facetious.
No.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of work. They have to write 3 business plans, and
it's before class, correct? Like they start earlier.
They do start earlier. Now, it does overlap a little bit with it. They may miss first hour, part of second. I know that 9 o'clock is when they will leave our wherever we happen to be, in which in the first quarter we're going to be at the Southern Illinoisan. But that's not it. It's not just confined to 7:30 to 9, because we will be having our trade show at the end, and that's a nighttime event. We're going to have the class business, and that's usually an evening event.
So they're learning business is not just a few hours a day.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And then we will have, each student will have an individual mentor. And the mentors will be members of the business community. And so chances are those mentors are going to be busy from 7:30 to 9 in the morning. And so if they need to meet with them, that's going to have to happen after hours as well. So there's no way that we can keep this course from being confined. It's going to have to overflow. And I'm okay with that, because as you said, that's business.
Now, you mentioned that the first quarter you're going to meet at the Southern.
Yes.
I'm guessing you don't actually meet at Carbondale High or Murfreesboro High. You're going to meet in businesses?
Always. We will never meet in a school. In fact, one of the guiding mantras of the CEO program is that we want it to never look like school. We never want to meet in a school. We never want it to be the standard classroom desks where I stand up in front with a smartboard or a chalkboard. It's always going to be in a local business. And we are in the process of finalizing the other 3 quarters, but it's not 100% confirmed. But I can definitely say that first quarter will be Southern Illinois.
So it sounds like it's quite a commitment from the students, because you said, if they're could be from Elkville and they're driving to the Southern every day, plus doing all the extra work as well in their normal classes, and they may be in athletics or whatever. So I imagine you've got some good students.
We do. I've gotten the opportunity to meet them. I met them at the orientation last Monday, and I was blown away. I really was. That we have an incredible group of students, and one of the things that we have to do over the course of this program is to teach them to interact properly with people, shake hands when you walk in a room, look at somebody in the eye when you talk to them. Don't just sit and go on and on about whatever it is that's on your mind. Talk to them about their business. And I expected to honestly have to take them from 0 to that. And they all walked in and shook my hand. 2 of them came up to me after the program and shook my hand and said, "Thank you for having me." They're really far more advanced than I expected, which is wonderful, because that means we can get right to the business aspect and spend less time on this is how you shake a hand.